designer. I work most of my life in the Middle East. This is Abdalla Muhammad Abdul Halim Sabbar. I'm an architect and I'm an urban designer. I work most of my life in the Middle East and in Africa, in the areas of architecture design, urban design, landscaping, and related fields of endeavor. To start with, let me thank the Nubian Initiative for inviting me to address you. I will talk briefly about my work, what I stand for, and what my work represents. Basically, I have been practicing architecture and urban design for the last 52 years. Ever since I started my practice in 1973, I have my own office. I have worked mostly in the area of the Arabian Gulf, from Iraq all the way down to Kuwait, the rest of the Gulf states, up to Sultanate of Oman, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, and I work in Africa, in Sudan and East Africa. Most of my work has centered on developing Nubian style architecture in a modern idiom. And I have really given a lot of attention and research in developing the Nubian classical architecture into its modern format. Basically to preserve the heritage of Nubian architecture, which has a special meaning and it has a special place in history, and it needed to be updated and brought up to today's needs of urban development. I have done a lot of work in the Middle East, as I said, in the last 50-something years, but of most important is my latest work in the last 22 years, basically concentrating on what we call vernacular architecture, but in another context, which is to work with grassroots, consciousness raising, involvement, and working with people in planning and in building their own environment. There are a series of experiments we have done before, but I thought for today I present to you some work we have been doing for the last 20 years, and that is the Cultural Center of Kerma. For those who do not know what Kerma is the oldest civilization in the Nile Valley. Some people even say it is the oldest in Africa, and perhaps to an extent, one of the oldest in the whole world. It extends as written history for the last 7,000 years. It is in northern Sudan, right on the Nile Valley. It was brought to the world attention by the great professor Charles Bonnet of Switzerland, who has been working in Kerma for the last 51 years and has written more than 30 books about Kerma until he brought it to the attention of the world. My great respect and thanks go to him for his great work. And this has started my attention because he has done a wonderful job of unearthing a great civilization and bringing it to the notice of the world. My job was, when I saw it first, that great city of Kerma, which was the capital of the kingdom of Kush, And Kush, for those who know, was the prominent culture in about 4,500 years ago. And it extended its rule all the way to the Middle East, all the way up to present-day Syria. And Kush has been mentioned in the Old Testament for at least 40 times. And that gives it this historic dimension for everybody's attention now. Now, that beautiful city was endangered by encroachment of agricultural activities from all its directions, north, south, and west. Professor Bonnet did a wonderful job of protecting the sites by building a permanent earth wall to protect the city from agricultural encroachment. Then I thought to myself that this is not enough. We needed to do something more to protect the site against agricultural encroachment. Already 30% of archaeological sites were lost to agriculture. Therefore, we found on the eastern side of the city a stretch of land, which is about 100 meters wide and 320 meters long, which could possibly be developed and built on. And our job was to create what we call now Karma Cultural Center. It's basically a series of buildings, including a museum, a building for Nubian Studies Center, houses for curator of the museum, houses for the police guards of the archaeological sites. It included hotels, motels, and other facilities for recreation and entertainment, and including workshops for traditional trades that could be elevated to what we call a living museum. Kerma, as the great trade center of the world at the time, had many industries: leather industries, silver, gold, textile, and ironworks. And we thought we relive this one in a series of workshops where the locals are trained to do so. The main objective, actually, of building this center was, first of all, involving the populace. The Nubian farmers who are in the area had to be brought in, first of all, to be taught about their history, make them conscious of the importance of being involved, make them conscious of that this is their own heritage and it is their job to protect it and to be proud of it. People normally, especially at the grassroots level, become proud of their heritage if they are personally involved. And this was my main objective, actually, of building this one. Therefore, what we did was, first of all, to design buildings on the traditional vernacular of Nubian architecture based on the vault. Nubians have done buildings using vaults as the main structural element throughout the 10,000 years, extending from Lower Nubia, which is starting at Aswan in Egypt, and all the way up to Khartoum, something like 2,000 kilometers long along the Nile Valley, using the same technique of construction. My job was to invite people to adopt this structural system in their buildings, rather than adopting the new structural ways, which are expensive, depending on imported material. This was actually using earth architecture. And because it's semi-desert or desert, this is a perfect combination, and using red bricks as an element of construction rather than concrete or any other form of construction. To do so, we had to train our local peasants to do structure in this format. And we actually got a local small contractor to be trained, and we actually enlisted local farmers to become building peasants and to do their own architectural work and to do their own building work and to be proud of. Little did we know when we finished the job, which took us about 11 years of construction, using our own resources. We never got any help from elsewhere. We never got government help. We never got external international help. We didn't get any donors. Donations were only collected from local farmers in Karma and the villages around it. Sometimes in kind, whenever they have agricultural produce, we would collect it, we sell it in the market, and we cash it. But it was a very slow process because the flow of cash was very slow. So it took me 11 years to complete the center. Now, the center is of international fame. Karma Museum is a great place to see. Built solely with red bricks and using vaulted structure. It now holds tremendous amount of archaeological finds which were found in the area which we call now the Dufufa, and the new city which is now called Dukkigel. All actually the works of Professor Charles Bonnet. Now, what is important to mention here is grassroots involvement. And what we wanted to do was to create a community center which will attract people to a focal point. All the villages along the Nile would come to, and this center had to forecast such a process. And in the process, we thought we will actually reactivate and save the Nubian language, or the Nubian, from being endangered, and it is actually endangered, by actually collective action of people coming to one place, exchanging poetry, music, dance, and in this way, actually, we revitalize Nubian language. My vision was literally surpassed by what we actually witnessed, by far more than I imagined. The center became the focus of social activity. Now, if you go to Karma, you will find marriage ceremonies on site, entertainment continuous. It's every day and night. The area is now filled with people coming from several places, from several villages, and it has become the center of cultural exchange in terms of music, poetry, and social dance and collective dance. The Nubian is now mixed with Andande of Dongola and the Kunuz, all the dialects of the Mahas, of the Sikot, and the Fadisha. These are different dialects of the Nubian language. They all come together and in exchange, and we can see in the last 5-6 years how much it has contributed to preserving the language and actually safeguarding it from being mostly endangered and lost. This is really gratifying. And number two, the population of Nubians around the area are now so proud of their past, which they never felt the same before. Today, they are the safeguard against any pillage of archaeological sites. We don't need to have police. The population of Nubians around Dukkigel and Adufufa are actually giving protection to these precious archaeological sites. And that is greatly gratifying, if any, for my work for the last 25 years in Karma area. Thank you very much for listening. I hope this conference will actually focus on the idea of architecture, vernacular architecture, people's involvement, and actually people's participation. And the grassroots architecture is the way for the future. And it is the best way actually to preserving our past and preserving our heritage and actually looking forward to the future with a new look. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the best results in this wonderful conference.